Good morning. My name is Paul Dalzell, and I am the worship coordinator of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome all of you, our members, our friends, and if this is your first time here, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. You came here looking for something this morning. It might have been a connection with others, a community, a place to ground yourself, inspiration, or refuge from a world gone mad. Whatever brought you up here, we are glad it did. Here you will find a community of people, all very different, yet all united in the shared values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity, all with love at the center, who may help you find what you were looking for this morning, and I hope in your lives. Many of us have found just that here in Unitarian Universalism. As Unitarian minister Reverend James Freeman Clark said in 1866, we think it is possible to have a church and even a denomination organized, not on a creed, but on a purpose of working together. Suppose that the condition of membership was the desire and intention of getting good and doing good. Please join us in singing our welcome song. We sing it through twice. And if you feel comfortable doing so, greet those around you with a smile, a nod, or a hello. The words are in your order of service and will be on the screen, I believe.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Please check your insert for goings on here at UUC this coming week and in the near future. For our chalice lighting this morning, we have To Remind Ourselves What is Real by Elena Westbrook. Please read it in unison with me as Maria lights our chalice. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is to be still for a moment, to remind ourselves what is real. The sun rose this morning, the dirt under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour, try just to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy. We come to this sanctuary, whether in person or virtually, to connect with our community, sharing our joys, our celebrations, our sorrows, our concerns, our peace, and our needs helps our community become closer and stronger. And that is the community we all need in these times. I have great joy for my dear friends, and as Stacy K. calls it, my family, who have cared for me during my slightly more than a week-long illness this past week. Mary Beth Beller, who checked on me daily and offered aid, and of course, Sarah Stone, who stepped up and masterfully arranged and conducted last week's worship service on literally a moment's notice. Sarah also brought me things I needed and checked on me throughout the week. Thanks to all who reached out and checked in. I have felt cared for during this time. have no joys in the book. I'm going to start with the concern in the book. Holy shit. On that note, last week, we woke to find that our government attacked Venezuela and kidnapped its president and first lady. Trump announced the next day that the U.S. would run the country and seize its oil. On Wednesday, we learned that an ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, shot Renee Nicole Good in the face, killing her on a residential street in Minneapolis. Since then, and currently, ICE, Border Patrol, state and local police are conducting raids throughout West Virginia, focusing on the southern parts of the state and toll roads this weekend. Several raids on restaurants, roofing, and construction sites happening in Cross Lanes and Taze Valley areas on Thursday and Friday. The jails are being filled over capacity. For all these joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, may we remember shared joy is multiplied and shared sadness is diminished. Please join me in reading in unison Our Covenant to Each Other by James Vila Blake. Love is the spirit of our faith, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And our offering words today are The Offering on a Difficult Morning by Elena Westbrook. Far too often, we are forced to confront the terrible things that people can do to each other. When these things happen, all we can do is come together in places like this church to remind ourselves that there is still hope, there is still love, and there are still good-hearted people who can look unblinkingly into the storm and continue to believe a calm, bright morning will come. This community is a refuge where we can keep the ember of hope alive when all the world seems intent on dousing it. And then we can use our little ember to light a beacon for the rest of the world. Our offering each week sustains this community so that we can share our small embers to light a dark world. Please give generously so that we can all together help spread that light. Let's take a moment to sit and breathe, to meditate, to ponder, to pray if you wish, but most of all, to sit here in community. Our meditation today is on Renee Nicole Good by Robert L. Arnold. Robert, who goes by Defiance13 on TikTok, is a writer and supports a rural advocacy nonprofit called Back 40 Action, among other causes. This one isn't short, but it is deep and meaningful. It really hit me in the feels. It's not meant to give you peace, but that's not what this service is about. So please relax in your chairs, plant your feet on the floor, square your shoulders. Feel free to close your eyes or unfocus them or gaze into our chalice flame. Breathe. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Settle into this moment, this space. What gets lost when power rushes to justify itself is the ordinary truth of a life. A mother doesn't live inside abstractions. She lives inside crumbs and corners. The inside of Renee Nicole Good's car doesn't look like a weapon. There's evidence, but it's evidence of love, stretched thin across busy days, stuffed animals shoved into glove boxes because there's nowhere else to put them, snack wrappers on the floor from backseat negotiations about still being hungry and asking to stop after school, crumbs pressed deep into seat crevices from granola bars, broken in half with one hand while steering with the other, mismatched water bottles rolling under seats, forgotten library books and receipts and reminder notes she meant to read. That kind of chaos isn't a menace, it's parenthood. It's the quiet archaeology of a life spent showing up over and over again. When no one's applauding, it's the smell of sunscreen and stale coffee, the echo of arguments that end in laughter, the residue of carpools and drop-offs, apologies for being late again. And that's not what violence looks like. And yet, the federal government chose a word that erases every bit of that. They chose terrorist. And terrorist is a word meant to flatten humanity. It strips away the context and intention and interior life. It allows a listener to stop imagining the person as a person. And once the word is spoken, the crumbs disappear, the stuffed animals vanish, the children become inconvenient footnotes. She was a mother, not a threat. When you watch the video and really watch it, what you see is not intent. What you see is confusion. Armed men crowding a vehicle, commands shouting from different directions, hands at windows, bodies positioned where no one should ever stand if they truly fear a moving car, seconds collapsing into chaos, a vehicle barely moving with hesitation, uncertainty and panic, and then gunfire. There's no clear moment of attack, no unmistakable act of aggression, no frame that shows deliberate violence. What it shows instead is something that's far more common and far more human. A person trying to understand what is being demanded of them while surrounded by authority that's moving too fast and thinking too little, if at all. A mother trying to move through their neighborhood. A mom who knew that when armed men surround your car and shout over one another, fear is not aggression, it's instinct. A mom whose first reflex wasn't domination, but survival, protection. Mothers protect in ways that don't make headlines. They protect by staying awake, by worrying quietly, by keeping the world held together with routines and snacks and soft things that are tucked where children might need them later. By refusing to harden even when the world keeps asking them to. And that is where something much darker enters the frame of this story. Because there are people who saw this and didn't ask a single question. People who didn't pause at the crumbs, didn't notice the stuffed animals, didn't wonder about the children who would never again sit in that back seat. They heard the government speak first, and that was enough. Big Brother said self-defense, and they repeated it. They said terrorist, and nodded along. No curiosity or skepticism, no humanity, just obedience dressed up. That's the deepest obscenity here. Not just that Renee Nicole Good was killed, but that the machinery of the state looked at the wreckage of a mother's life and called it terror. And so many people accepted that story without ever looking inside the car. There's nothing radical about crumbs or extremist about stuffed animals. Nothing violent about a vehicle that was built to carry children. What is radical and dangerous is a government so desperate to control the story that it must erase the humanity before the facts are even known. Because if we remember who she is, if we picture the nostalgic chaos of parenthood, still sitting there when the engine went quiet and the lie collapses, what remains is not a terrorist, it's a mother. 3 children who will grow up knowing exactly how fragile life can be, especially when power forgets how to see them. It's on Renee Nicole Good by Robert L. Adams. My goal on Sunday mornings is usually to bring you to a peaceful, worshipful place. I try to help you feel close to your community, a part of something bigger than each of us individually, part of a community with love at its center. Each week, I try to leave you in a place of hope so that you can carry that feeling home with you and maybe even feel it throughout the week. But this week, I haven't had peace like a river in my soul. This week, as I have felt as weak as a newborn from this darn virus, I felt anger. Anger at our imperialistic authoritarian regime taking over a sovereign nation. Anger at our so-called leaders calling a murdered mom a terrorist. Anger at images of young men and women trapped on roofs in gated communities surrounded, right here in West Virginia, surrounded by ICE and police, just for trying to earn enough money to send back to their families. Anger at the injustice of it all. Part of my anger is my own frustration at being sick and unable to take an active role in the rapid response group. I've had to vicariously watch others do that, do what they can do to help by way of a signal thread on my phone. There is both joy and pride in hearing about my friends doing more than their part. One, a self-described angry menopausal Appalachian, went far and above the call of duty. But even before Jonathan Ross murdered Renee Good, I decided to focus on this month's theme, practicing resistance. Because the question is always, what can we do? We can contact our representatives in Washington, sure. We can call, email, and write letters to Riley Moore and Carol Miller and hope they listen. We can try to contact Jimbo Justice and Shelley Moore Capito, but I can attest to the fact that Shelley won't even see you if you stop by her office. She'll have you arrested instead. Morrissey has sanctioned the ICE raids and called for full cooperation from all state workers, blaming undocumented people for the influx of drugs coming into our state. Something I'm sure the former pharmaceutical representative knows more than a little about. Contacting our representatives is the recommended method of taking action. My friends at West Virginia Can't Wait also recommend running for office ourselves. The former seems ineffectual, the latter costs money most of us cannot afford. We can also show up to make our voices heard, as a few of us did on Friday evening in front of the governor's mansion. And rallies and demonstrations like the No Kings rallies in June and October of this past year are also ways to make our voices heard. When I Googled what can we do, I did find a few articles. Robert Reich suggests 10 ways you can help fight neo-fascism. Here's a few of those. Protect the decent and hardworking members of your communities who are undocumented or whose parents are undocumented. You can protect the LGBTQ members of your community. You can participate or organize boycotts of companies that are enabling the Trump regime, starting with Elon Musk's X and Tesla, and any companies that advertise on X or Fox News. To the extent that you are able, you can fund groups that are litigating against Trump, like the ACLU, and spread the truth. Get news through reliable sources and spread it. If you hear anyone spreading lies and Trump propaganda, including local media, contradict them with facts and sources. Number 10 on his list is keep the faith. Do not give up on America. Remember, Trump won the popular vote by only 1.5 points. America has deep problems, to be sure, which is why we can't give up on it, or give up the fight for social justice, equal political rights, equal opportunity, and the rule of law. We will never give up. I also found 20 lessons from the book On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. Here are a few I think are worth sharing. Do not obey in advance. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. A citizen who adapts to this way is teaching power what it can do. Do not obey in advance. Defends institutions. It's institutions that help us preserve decency. They need our help as well. So choose an institution you care about, a court, a newspaper, a law, a labor union, and take its side. Beware the one-party state. Support the multiple party system and defend the rules of democratic elections. Vote in local and state elections when you can. Consider running for office. Take responsibility for the face of the world. The symbols of today enable the reality of tomorrow. Notice as you move around the world the swastikas and the other signs of hate. Don't look away and don't get used to them. Remove them yourself and set an example for others to do so. Stand out. Someone has to. It's easy to follow along. It can feel strange to do or say something different, but without that unease, there is no freedom. Remember Rosa Parks. The moment you set an example, the spell of the status quo is broken and others will follow. Believe in truth. To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. Make eye contact and small talk. This is not just polite, it's part of being a citizen and a responsible member of society. It's also a way to stay in touch with your surroundings, to break down social barriers and understand who you should and who should not trust. You want to know the psychological landscape of your daily life. Be a patriot. Set a good example of what America means for the generations to come. They will need it. And be as courageous as you can. If none of us is prepared to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny. In the short term, if you see something, stop and film it, as the people in Minneapolis did. We all carry phones that allow you to record any interactions with ICE or other law enforcement agencies. And it's legal to do so as long as you do not interfere with their duties. As I said at the beginning of this core message, I'm not feeling very hopeful. However, there are groups and organizations that are working to stop the rise of white Christian nationalism being promoted by this regime. We can work with them, and we can organize our own. I'm going to leave you with another piece written on TikTok, this time by a creator who goes by the name Frontier Feminist. What will never be known is what was in her mind in those final seconds. What is clear is what happened in the physical world. The officer was able to move out of the way. After the moment of danger had passed, he fired again, twice more, into her head, through the driver's side window. It's not self-defense. That's lethal force used after the threat had ended. And the response from some have been FAFO, as if disobeying an order warrants public execution. No jury, no trial, no defense, just death in the street. And applause from people who have confused obedience with virtue. But here's the question that keeps getting skipped. Why wouldn't she get out of the car? Because we have normalized something deeply dangerous. Masked federal agents operating in communities with little transparency or accountability. People taken off the street and sent to detention centers or out of the country. No phone calls, no lawyers, no due process. This is not hysteria. This is documented reality. She was not a protester. She was not an agitator. She lived in the neighborhood. She tried to leave. And in a moment where fear and instinct collide, choosing distance over compliance is not proof of guilt. It's proof that people no longer trust the state to keep them safe. Let's be clear about something else that keeps getting ignored. ICE had no jurisdiction over her. She was a U.S. citizen. She was not the subject of a warrant. She was not accused of an immigration violation. ICE is not a general police force with automatic authority over civilians. An order issued without lawful jurisdiction does not become lawful just because it is shouted by an armed agent. She should have complied. Only makes sense if there was legitimate authority to comply with, and there wasn't. And then came the lie. Officials claimed an officer had been run over. Evidence does not support that. A physician on site tried to render medical aid and was refused. They said, "I don't care." She was shot and left to die. That matters. Because when the state kills someone, controls the narratives, blocks medical care, and avoids accountability, we are no longer talking about a single bad decision. We are talking about lawlessness, wearing a badge. My hope for you is that I leave you with the resolve to speak up, to write words, to make a stand. Remember how it felt to stand as one with our like-minded friends and neighbors at the No Kings rally? I know it's not very pastoral of me, but I do hope you feel angry as I do. What is going on in our nation is not the America I grew up believing in. Yes, we do have a history of taking over other countries for their resources, but that's not how I want us to be. And I refuse to let us be a nation that condones the killing of its citizens for the crime of not complying with illegal orders. That makes me angry. Thank you. Our closing words today are Wherever We Are, Love Is by Deborah Hafner. As we enter into another week of uncertainty in the world, let us remember there is only one side, that of humanity and planet Earth. May we pray for peace. May we raise our voices with our elected officials and engage as we can in acts of resistance. And may we remember to take very good care of ourselves, each other, and those we love. May we remember these words adapted from the Unity Prayer. The light of love surrounds us, love enfolds us, the power of love protects us, love watches over us. Wherever we are, love is.